Welcome to the Curator's Shelf. I'm Leila. Today we're looking at one of the most talked about authors in fantasy, Sarah J. Maas. I own both complete series and the first book of the Crescent City. I want to show you what that looks like on a shelf, talk about each one, and share a few thoughts along the way, whether you've read her or you're just curious what all the fuss is about. Let's start at the beginning. The Throne of Glass series is where Sarah J. Maas first made her name. 8 books, starting with Throne of Glass and ending with Kingdom of Ash. The premise is deceptively simple. A young assassin competing to become the king's champion, but it evolves into something much bigger. Empires, ancient magic, political intrigue, wars, prophecies. It's the kind of series where you reach the final book and genuinely can't believe how far it's come from where it started. What I love about owning the full set is how good the books look together on a shelf. This is the standard paperback edition, but there's also a much more colorful paperback version published by Bloomsbury. The brighter covers definitely stand out and feel more modern, while these have a slightly more classic fantasy look. Honestly, it just comes down to which style you prefer, but both editions look great as a complete set. One thing you'll immediately notice if you get into the fandom is the debate around reading order. I started with Throne of Glass, but honestly, if I could go back, I probably would have started with The Assassin's Blade. It's essentially the prequel to the series, taking place before the events of Throne of Glass, and it adds a lot of context that makes the later books even more impactful. One of the strengths of this series is the character growth. The main character you meet in the first book feels completely different from the person she becomes by the end of the series. Watching that transformation unfold over thousands of pages is probably what kept me invested more than anything else. Now, I will say this. The first couple of books aren't perfect. The world feels smaller at first, and some of the fantasy elements haven't been fully developed yet. But once the story opens up, the scale becomes massive, and suddenly, what started as a competition inside a castle becomes a full-blown epic fantasy. Early on, it feels very YA fantasy, but later books lean much more into high fantasy with deeper lore, history, and magic systems. You can really tell Maas was expanding the scope of the story as she went. The last book in the series, Kingdom of Ash, is the thickest book in the series, as you can see. Now, let's move to the series that probably has the bigger fan base right now, A Court of Thorns and Roses. 5 books. Fae, magic, romance, and a story that shifts significantly in tone as it goes. The cover designs on these are genuinely beautiful, very colorful and cohesive as a set. I have all 5 books. A Court of Thorns and Roses, A Court of Mist and Fury, A Court of Wings and Ruin, A Court of Frost and Starlight, and A Court of Silver Flames. The first book starts as a loose retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but by the second book, A Court of Mist and Fury, it becomes something completely different. That's the book people can't stop talking about, and honestly, I get it. It's where the world really opens up, the character relationships become much more interesting, and you start to understand why this series has such a huge fan base. Silver Flames is technically a spin-off following a different character, but it fits neatly with the rest. And whether you end up loving it or not, there's no denying the impact this series has had. It's basically become the gateway series for a huge number of fantasy romance readers, and it's probably the set I see recommended more than any other. The last one I want to show you is House of Earth and Blood, the first book in Sarah J. Maas's Crescent City series. This one feels very different from her other work. It's darker, more urban, and set in a world that blends fantasy with modern city life. It's also a massive book, easily the biggest one on this shelf. I haven't started this series yet, so let me know in the comments if it's worth diving into. I've heard a lot of people say it's her most ambitious world building, and I'm definitely planning to pick up the rest of the series at some point. 14 books in total. That's what a Sarah J. Maas collection looks like on a shelf. It's a commitment in terms of time, reading order, and honestly, shelf space. But there's something satisfying about seeing the entire collection together. If you've read Sarah J. Maas, I'd love to know which series you started with and which one ended up being your favorite. And if you haven't read her yet, well, this is what you're getting yourself into. Thanks for spending some time with the shelf today. I'll see you in the next one.